Thanks everyone, and thanks for coming back after lunch and try and stay awake for enough time. Although this is really exciting, you're going to love it. I'd like to talk to you about pharmaceuticals. I've had 35 years in multinational pharma. I know I started really young, but it was, I know what happens on both sides. I know how the pharmaceutical companies make their money. I know how they go through the process of regulation and approval. And the thing about psychedelics, and most people, they think psychedelics, wave and psychedelics, and then what's a precision psychedelic? I'm going to tell you all about that. But these products, psilocybin, which most people would know as magic mushrooms, we'll talk about them. Psilocybin, one thing we should remember is psilocin is the active ingredient in psilocybin. So when you hear the word psilocin, which is what we have, it's the active ingredient in psilocybin, which is something from originally magic mushrooms. It's all synthesized now, first synthesized back in 1913. So it's over 110 years since it was first in the lab and thousands of years since many people have used these products. However, to get through a regulatory body, you must have the right data, you must do a clinical study, and many of them often, in the conditions that you wish to treat. And the problem is the last 35 years or so, most of the people doing research in psychedelics are people that love psychedelics. And they don't get the data in the right place to get the right approvals. I am a psychedelic skeptic, always have been my whole life. And the last 18 months, I saw data that I just couldn't simply believe. And that's why I want to talk to you about it today. Very quickly on the company, $40 million business. There are US companies doing far less than we are that are valued at 10 to 20 times what we are. So of course, as all CEOs say, we are undervalued. But looking at our group, you can see this list of names. I'm there. Shareholders see very similar to the list of names that we have. Our founder is Dr. Garner. Citicorp is a big group of investors that go under one name. Dr. Tillett is here, came on the board 3 or 4 months ago, 3 months ago. It seems such a short amount of time. And then myself, and then Mr. Herwig Janssen. Herwig Janssen is actually the son of the founder of Janssen Pharmaceutica. Janssen is the pharmaceutical group of Johnson & Johnson. So Herwig had 26 years as licensing and acquisitions director at J&J. He spent 40 years at J&J because his father created Janssen. And he's now come on as our chair about a month ago. This guy's a billionaire, and he's the chairman of our company because he knows that what we can do in the next 50 years in psychiatry is analogous to what his father had done 50 years ago in psychiatry. So I think there's something in that. First of all, myth busting. Why are psychedelics illegal? Many reasons. They say mostly political, but when it comes down to what we take on a daily basis, who had coffee today or tea? Probably just about everyone, right? Caffeine, okay? Natural product. We use it all the time. Makes us feel a bit better. But seeing the list of products here, I'll show you what this is. This is dependence potential on the vertical axis and active dose versus lethal dose on the horizontal axis. This means what does the job to make you feel like you're supposed to, and how much do you need before it kills you? So you can see up here all the products, some of which we would take on a daily basis, but not obviously some of them, and others that we take when we're really ill, when we're in pain, and some that obviously are illegal and do kill you on very small doses. You can see where psilocybin is. 0.001, no addictive potential. People who use psilocybin do not say, I can't wait till I get some more of that stuff. It's very challenging when you take these things. People talk about MDMA, okay? It's over here. It is addictive, and you do die if you have too much of it. Psilocybin's way over here. No one's ever died in a clinical study or program that's taken psilocybin. It's actually very safe and not addictive. So why can't we use this in medicine? Good question. These have an opportunity to target what we call serotonin. Body makes serotonin all the time. It makes us happy. Serotonin and dopamine. These are the two things. Too much dopamine, aggressive, angry. Too little serotonin, unhappy. So your body regulates these things. Sometimes you don't regulate them as much as you would like, and people go into different disorders. Depression being the most significant that people would talk about all the time, but anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorders, and many others. Most people wouldn't say that binge eating disorder or IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, would be neurological disorders, but they are. And that's coming to the fore now. So, since about the late 80s, early 90s, antidepressants have been the way that most people treat mental health conditions. And the most common, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. What they do, they try and keep the serotonin your body produces at a level which is a little bit higher than it might be otherwise. So you become a little bit happier. But why can't you give them serotonin? Why do you have to stop the serotonin from being reuptaken when you can give them more? The reason why psilocin and psilocybin are so effective is you can see serotonin. Now, a chemical name is 5-hydroxytryptamine. Psilocybin, or the active in psilocin, is 4-hydroxydimethyltryptamine. The body takes it on as its own serotonin. Fits into that keyhole perfectly. That's why there's such a large change in brain activity when you take this product, which some people think is nice when they're using it recreationally, but medically it does some absolutely amazing things. Clinical potential is real. Significant improvements in symptoms within 1 day to 7 days is typical. Durability of response from one single dose or 2 doses, depending on how you start a patient, 3, 6 months or longer for conditions that people are on daily medications for. All these conditions that you see right now are conditions that are in phase 2, clinical studies around the world right now looking at psilocybin alone. Everything here. And in 35 years in multinational pharma, I have never seen a single drug at a single dose be able to treat this many conditions. It's absolutely remarkable. But how can you harness that's obviously clear clinical potential without being anecdotally cured of whatever you have in South America? And that's why we're here. This is the one I really want to get through because it's important. I know I have 7 minutes. I'm trying to get through the whole deck. I'm going to do my best. This is actually a chart of what happens when a person, any person, this is 36 people, takes 1 capsule of psilocybin. Now when you take psilocybin, as I said, liver converts it to psilocin, then it heads up to the brain. Very, very easily crosses the blood-brain barrier, which is important for these medications. Time on the bottom. There are issues with using psilocybin in a medical setting. Recreationally, it doesn't matter if it takes 2 to 4 hours to work, because people just take it and they go, well, we'll just wait for something to happen. Medically, it means something. When you take psilocybin, issue number 1, efficacy. 30% of the time, you have 10 patients, 3 times out of 10, they won't get an effect, because the blood levels of psilocin are too low. So psychiatrist is there, psychotherapist is there, patients laying there thinking, what am I here for? 8 hours, they're there, no effect. Issue 1. Issue 2, side effects. Now there's a very narrow, what they call a therapeutic zone. If you go above it, as I said, no one dies. But the challenge they experience is significant. Nausea, vomiting, sometimes loss of bladder control, certainly paranoia, hallucinations. They want it to stop. Please, please make it stop. Once you take a capsule or a tablet, you can't reverse this stuff. And the problem is the patient's going on that journey, but the psychiatrist and the therapist are as well. Anyone who knows how psychiatrists operate, they love their patients. They don't want to do anything to hurt them. They're out of control. There's nothing they can do. Which is why psychiatrists will have a lot of trouble using products like psilocybin unless they can control the process. Unless they know my patient is comfortable and safe, and if I need to stop, I can. Just by the patient knowing they can reverse or stop the process If they need to, gives the patient confidence to go through with their treatment. So that's a big deal. Issue number 3, imprecision. As the time to reach a therapeutic level is 3 hours, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 4. No one knows. Every patient is different. Every patient metabolises psilocybin differently. Unpredictable outcome. Someone who may be 40 or 50 kilos may get no therapeutic advantage at all. Someone that may be 100, 120 kilos, drinks alcohol, really, really good at taking these sort of things, can find they get such a large dose they can't cope. It's not dependent on race, on weight, on age, on what sex you are. It makes no difference. And that's what's a problem for this type of product. Apprehension is a big one. People are scared. They're scared to go on something new they haven't gone on before. And then 5 is commercial model. How do you commercialise something that requires a psychiatrist and a therapist with you for 8 hours, a whole day, just a charge that on the PBS would be $15,000 in costs just for one single patient. And we haven't got enough psychiatrists and therapists in Australia to manage that. Imagine if you could do that in 2 hours or less. And that's where this therapeutic zone comes in. That's where this time frame comes in. Think about all these people. And when you get to the end of the day, you see that dark black line? That's the average. On average, people are within a therapeutic zone on average about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. And for that, all those risks come into it, and this variability is enormous. So if you can shorten that to 1 to 2 hours, if a psychiatrist giving you a product through an IV route of active ingredient, doesn't go through the liver, can deliver that to you and know that you're in a state where you have a blindfold on, you're laying back for 2 hours, you can be there within less than 15 minutes. It's controlled. They're in control. Patients comfortable, doctors comfortable. They like to have control. They like to understand what's going to happen to my patient. If you can precisely target the blood level you want, you bring them into a therapeutic zone and you hold them there for 2 hours and then you bring them out. No nausea, no vomiting, no loss of control. But they do go into a waking dream, like a REM sleep, but being awake. Patient safety, you can reverse it, turn it off, patient comes back. No need to say, I'm sorry, you're on the journey. Not like that. Strong IP, and I'll show you about our intellectual property in a bit. I'm going to really move forward. And commercially scalable. 5 patients versus 1. Imagine the opportunity there. Phase 1 data on IV, you can see here, obese patients versus normal weight, obese versus normal weight. Therapeutic zone, you can see in the green versus the last one I showed you. 2 hours in the zone, no matter what weight you are coming in, because there's no metabolism required. Patent families, we have 6 patent families. The most important one is use of psilocybin or adjuncts in terms of psychiatry settings. We have patents around irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, and binge eating disorder. No one can go into those 3 conditions with psilocybin or an adjunct for the next 20 years. We're the only company in the world that can do that because we're the first company in the world to treat those 3 conditions with a psilocybin adjunct. We also have patents around the use of infusion maintenance over 2 hours. No one else can do that. They can give you an injection in 5 minutes, they can give you a tablet, but they cannot give you a maintenance infusion where you know exactly what you're going to get. That's why it's so cool. In 50 seconds, I'm going to show you 6 slides that are really cool. We've done 3 clinical studies with oral psilocybin in the US, 1 with Harvard University, 1 with University of Michigan, 1 University of Florida. The blue and the red means efficacious and challenging. Those 2 patients, this is all oral psilocybin, by the way. You see those 2 patients on the next slide, one in the green, one in the blue. This is irritable bowel syndrome, impossible to treat. 6 months after taking dose, this patient had no IBS symptoms whatsoever. The other patient, patient 8, went from the highest possible dose for IBS down to less than half. And this looking at 6-month follow-up, we've only had 3 patients through to 6 months. 1 didn't work, the other 6 did. And pain. Pain reduced after 1 dose intervention, 3 months, 6-month follow-up, it's there. Binge eating disorder, 1 dose, 6 patients. Every patient got an 80% reduction in binge eating disorder episodes, 1 dose. Depression and anxiety also reduced by 45% and 60%. Continued out for 14 to 16 weeks after therapy. 1 dose. That's it. Happened before? Nothing. 4 weeks before? No change. Drug? Huge change. Durable out to past 14 weeks. 1 dose. And fibromyalgia, last one, very impossible. Very difficult to treat. Most patients with fibromyalgia, it's a whole body pain. Analogous to someone returning in the military, they've been in an accident, they lost a limb, they're in hospital and they swear they have agony in a hand when they haven't got an arm. Because the brain says you had terrible trauma. Your hand or your foot is really hurting, but it's not there. It's a neurological pain. Same as fibromyalgia. 5 patients. We planned to do 10. We thought we'd have a 50% failure rate. We actually had every patient improved. Now this is a chart that has multiple symptoms on it. I apologise. It's not a good way to show this in the pharmaceutical industry. But this shows you all of the things, not just about pain, everything that surrounds this patient's quality of life. Something that most pharma companies don't want to tell you because they want to fix the pain. That's it. Okay, pain improved. Acceptance of pain improved. Interference. Did pain interfere with my day like it used to? Huge reductions, improvement. I got better sleep. I can physically function in the world. Anxiety improved. Depression stayed the same because these patients weren't depressed. They were anxious about their fibromyalgia. Fatigue improved. They can get out and about. Cognition improved. No more fibro fog or brain fog, as they call it. Getting out and active again, and fibromyalgia survey scores improved. So this is the kind of stuff that we're seeing. Now, we're not a company, yes, we're worth $40 million. I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen what I've seen here. I know the company's worth a lot of money. I know we're going to do some great things, but people have to get over the fact that this name's psychedelic. It turns people off, but it shouldn't, because there are 250 studies going on in the world right now. No one has what we have. No one can deliver what we can deliver. And the thing is, we are the best kept secret because no one outside really of this country knows about us, and certainly no one outside of this room knows what I told you today, because no one reads these when I put them on the ASX. Everyone knows that, right? But in terms of milestones, we've achieved everything we set out to achieve, either before or on time. When we say we're going to do it, we deliver it. We don't take your money and say, I'm sorry, we're late on that, we're late on that. We have a binge eating disorder trial in IV infused psilocin, 8803. That's been approved by the Ethics Board of Swinburne University. And we're putting 12 patients with binge eating disorder through with IV psilocin. We'll have results coming out, top line at least, by the end of the year. And then we'll be on stage with the world, because we're actually further past this than most. And there are only 2 or 3 companies globally that are where we are right now, but they don't have what we have. Thank you very much.